minutes we are going to online as our scheduled program going to start from 1:30 o'clock. Before that, let me join our today's host and let me check whether our guests are there. So I'm just writing. Hello everybody and those who have joined just now. We are just adding our host, today's host, and also we will add our guest. So this time has not started yet. It will be start from 1:30 o'clock. Till then, to join again.
কোথায় জয়েন হবো ইনস্টাগ্রামে
So we are just getting some technical glitches so that the another join is getting delayed. So we are trying to resolve this and adding our host as soon as possible. Hi Pinaki.
Hello.
Everything is fine because we was finding some challenge to getting you online.
Okay. We are here now.
So yeah, and we are before time.
Yeah, let's wait.
So
Let's give people
and
time to join.
uh, so many followers are already there. They are waiting for our guest, and let's welcome our guest, right?
All right.
So I've sent the request to Andy and Andy and Thijs. Let's see.
Hey,
Hi.
good day,
Hey.
guys.
Yeah, going good.
Yeah.
So Pinaki is with myself, Arnav. So
Hello.
I'm waiting for our other prestigious guest to join.
Very good.
Just give me some time. random ko, Jason. Okay, so I think number of people getting added. I can see the number increasing.
And Andy is also mentioning that he tried to request to join.
Okay, Arnab, can you check?
Yeah, let me check. Yeah, just now I got.
আমি তো অন্য কেসে আছি দেখতেই পাচ্ছি না কি আমার যেখানে দেখা আমার তো কিছু দেখাচ্ছে না
Andy is
কিছুই কিছু করতে পারবে না।
the thought of the world. Okay. So my that today don't know Instagram was facing too much time to add. I was facing and now I can just request it, but not. Uh, so let's wait for one few seconds and him join. Yeah, most probably. Hi.
Hi,
Hey,
mate.
how's it going?
Hey, one joined, and what happened with Pinaki?
Not sure.
I was telling that there must be some technical glitch today.
Yeah, just now your audio, for me at least, was a bit clunky.
Oh,
So I'm hoping it'll be good from now.
yeah. Hope so. Cross the finger and let's connect Pinaki. Yeah. Right.
Hey, sorry,
So
not audible, visible.
all of four dots are connected parts of the world. Uh, uh, not about it. So
Your voice is breaking, I think, Arnab. Are you able to hear other people?
For me as well.
I think I couldn't hear the thing. Okay.
okay.
I thought it's my problem. Sorry, I was trying to adjust
So
my network settings.
is it better now?
Yeah, it's a bit better. I
Okay.
wanted to check, am I visible, audible, and is there any
Yep.
background noise? Okay, thank you. So let's start the session, and I think we were awaiting for this for a long time. And thanks, Andy and Thijs, for accepting our request. And let me give a quick background of Everesting and background of Andy and Thijs before we jump into a lot of conversations, right? So Everesting as a concept is not new to India. So what I can say is India, we have done a lot of Everesting, and I think Thijs knows better. So many records are coming, requests to him to maintain. So we, as a country, we as a cycling community in India, we are doing Everesting, and now I think the first phase of Everesting is over in India, and now we are going for challenging each other and breaking those records. We are into record breaking mode in Everesting. You have done it in 24 hours, I'll do it in 23 hours, things like that. And just to introduce with this quick background, just to introduce to our audience. So we have Andy, who is joining from Melbourne, and he's the founder of this wonderful and amazing concept called Everesting, which is, I think, it's like growing in, I think, in almost all the countries in the world. They have maybe one athlete or the other who has at least done Everesting, and we want to hear those stories that how did it do that? Just trying out with a concept and then flowing it across all over the world, and people are going crazy to do Everesting. What have made it? So we want to hear from you. And we also have Thijs joining from Netherlands, so Amsterdam. So Thijs is the person, when you do Everesting, you give a request that I have done, and you send your record, and you get a wonderful certificate, a wonderful write up of the email, a wonderful Hall of Fame which has come up, and it has been and the Hall of Fame is something we really want to talk about in this, that so many different categories, Thais, so many different categories you have, and so many different types of sports. We thought Everesting may be only for climbers. Andy broke this barrier. Everesting is for cyclists, not for climbers and hikers and mountaineers. But now I see lot many other things. Other sports also does Everesting. So we want to hear all of that in this session. So let me start with Andy. So Andy, tell us about that. What made you think about Everesting? And because we know Everesting is for mountaineers, Everest is for mountaineers. In a cycle, Everest, how did it all come? How did it all start?
Well, I think the mountaineering side of it is probably the best place to start. I've been a keen fan of reading and consuming stories of mountaineering forever. And I think the appeal for me is obviously the adventure and the romance of kind of the concept of mountaineering. But I've also always been inspired by that idea of pioneering and breaking new ground and being the first to climb a route or to put a flag on a new peak. There's something about that concept that I've always loved. But if I go back to where the concept of Everesting kind of came from, and it's a little bit of a story, so bear with me. But quite a few years ago, maybe 15 or more years ago, I formed a group of hill climbing cyclists. We were called Hell's 500, and we were different than a lot of cyclists that were out there because we were inspired by riding uphill. And at that time in Melbourne, where I'm living at the moment, the group of us had completed all the fondos that were sort of available for cyclists. So, we went around, and by the time it came to the second or the third year, we're doing these events. So you're smiling, Pinaki, because I know you've probably done the same thing, right? But you go through those events once, twice, maybe the third time. And I guess I was always interested in the idea of any of those fondos we could have just done the next week. We got to the point with our fitness where we didn't need to really train for it specifically. We could just go out and ride those. And I love the idea of a really big chunky goal, something big and audacious, that it was the inspiration for us to train through the winter. It was the reason we'd call each other out of bed on a cold Melbourne morning, when it's 3 degrees outside or something and raining. We had this big goal to train for. So every year I set what was called the Hell's 500 challenge, and it was one big epic adventure. For example, one of the harder climbs in Melbourne is called the Crucifix. It goes over Mount Dandenong, and it traces 4 increasingly more difficult climbs of Mount Dandenong, and it's over 2,000 meters, about 70 kilometers. And we'd never heard of someone doing that twice. That was just doing one of those is a big training ride. So not only did we do it twice, but we decided to do it 3 times in a row. So that was an example of one of those. Another one of those big epic rides was we did this 500-kilometer ride with 10,000 vertical meters, and we had 36 hours to kind of complete that in the high country of Victoria. And again, it was about setting these big chunky epic ideas that people hadn't done before, and it was really a motivation to kind of to train. But what happened was, as the years went on, this small group that I'd created grew in notoriety. We had people, the first year there was 5, and then there was 10, and then there was 20. And then by the 4th year or so, I had people from all over the world saying, I really want to join one of these Hell's 500 epics. But what they didn't realize was this wasn't, I've run plenty of events before with big inflatable gantries and medallions and jerseys and everything, but this wasn't like that. This was grassroots. It was about the passion of climbing. It was my parents and my wife and my sister standing on the side of the road handing out home-baked slice and bananas, and I couldn't have someone flying over from New York to do this event. It was more about the climbing than the experience, if you know what I mean. So it was sort of at that point where I think I had about 120 people saying, right, I want to come to Melbourne for this next epic. That's how much it had sort of grown. And it was at that point that I knew that if this Hells 500 annual epic was to continue, I needed to find a framework that was repeatable anywhere in the world. And it's funny that now I work with Thijs, and the Netherlands was actually my benchmark. I thought, whatever this climbing challenge is, you need to be able to do it on one of the flattest places on earth. Right? If you can do it there, then you can do it anywhere. And so with that idea and with that background of kind of loving the beauty and the mystery of mountaineering, this concept was born. In fact, I actually heard of this incredible ride by a gentleman by the name of George Mallory, connected with the George Mallory who climbed Mount Everest. Now, he'd done a ride 20 years before where it was, long before GPS and cycling computers and everything like that, where he was actually training to mountaineer up Mount Everest. And kind of as part of that training, he was doing some enduro training on the bike. And I can't remember if it was just before or just after he'd done the actual Everest, but on Everest itself. But he decided that it would be a nice training goal to see if he could climb the height of Mount Everest on a bike. Now, I heard about this ride 20 years later, and it was kind of a combination of that big chunky goal, the connection with mountaineering, and this concept that with a little bit of work and some framework, this would be able to inspire people from around the globe. And so just over 10 years ago, in secret, I reached out to those 120 people that were keen on joining us, and I said, okay, this is what the challenge is. And so that's kind of the history. Like on one date at the end of February 10 years ago, we all set off in a whole bunch of different countries around the world under the cover of secrecy to attempt our own first Everestings. And ever since that weekend, every single week since that started 10 years ago, there's been someone Everesting around the world. And of course, these days, it's like every single day and multiple people every single day. But you were talking about the countries that it's impacted, and I think we're now up to 116 countries, including Antarctica.
Antarctica?
Antarctica as well, on a trainer in Antarctica. I can't remember which base, but it's incredible. The photos are amazing. Like, it's Antarctica.
I will have to go and search in an Everesting site now. Who was the person who did it in Antarctica?
Totally. Yeah. Pretty incredible. And I mean, I guess for me, it's 10 years on, and I'm just so inspired by all these stories, and hopefully we get to bounce into a few of them a bit later on in this call. But it's just a constant inspiration for me. So anyway, hopefully that helps understand.
That helps. But I have one linked question, because you said Hells 500 is about those epic challenges.
That's right.
But I think we know one of the epic challenge, that is Everesting, which has, I think, engulfed the world now. But that's what right. Are the other Hells 500 challenges which you have done?
Well, there was some really good ones. Like I said, there was that one where we did the 3 repeats. The one where we actually got our name was the 500 kilometer, 10,000 vertical meter, 36 hour. And again, like, it sounds strange, but you need to remember this is probably 12, 13 years ago. And at that point, endurance cycling was kind of quite a niche sport. And certainly endurance climbing on the bike, it wasn't really a thing. And, it's been a little bit normalized by all these bikepacking races that are coming out now. There's a whole bunch of people that are focused on endurance sports, and Everesting's obviously played a pretty large part in this as well. But I think the problem is, if you were to do that Hells 500 ride, the 500 kilometer one today, you get some attention for sure. But at the time, it was really pushing the envelope of what was considered possible, and it really was such quite a different ride. But there were some other ones. Like, there was one where between us, we'd always wanted to do a 300 kilometer day on the bike. But of course, being Hells 500, we weren't going to do a flat 300 kilometers. So we did it in Victoria's height, like our alpine region. And it included 6,000 meters of climbing that day. So 300 kilometers and 6,000 meters in a day. And it was a big day on the bike. One of the hardest and most enjoyable days that I've had on the bike as well. I don't think I've ever suffered so much in my life.
Is that how the Rome challenge got built? By doing a long ride with a lot of climbs?
Yeah, the Rome Challenge was basically the idea was to kind of replicate the ride where Hell's 500 got its name. So 500 kilometers, 10,000 vertical meters, 36-hour window. However you can sleep. That's different to Everesting. And just because like that ride was so special to me, in the time since I've attempted 2 Romes, one I was successful with and one I failed with, and both of those rides are in my top rides of all time, like including the failed one, like one of the best rides I've ever done. I loved it so much. But the idea of the Rome was to, I guess, remove some of the constrict. Like Everesting only has some really basic rules. You pick any hill anywhere in the world, you ride repeats of it, don't sleep, and it has to be in one activity. So it's quite simple. You just keep on climbing until you hit the height of Mount Everest.
Yeah.
But with the idea of Rome, I just wanted to kind of break that idea that it's just tied to repeats. So with the Rome, as the name suggests, you can roam anywhere. You can kind of go off and do a point to point or a big loop or a combination of repeats. And the one that I failed on, actually, by this stage, between myself and my uncle, who I used to cycle with, I think we'd done to that point maybe 13 full Everests between us, and they're all within Victoria, where I live. So we decided we'd see if we could do a ride climbing each of those climbs at least once. And it was, I think 400 kilometers or something, and a lot of climbing. The reason why it didn't work for us in the end was because there's a little bit of an error with our elevation calculations, and we're just a little bit out. But the other room that I did, I called it, I don't know if you know this term, like Forrest Gump, like the movie Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
You know this one?
We are lost.
So I did a Forrest Gump Everesting, and that basically means I head out of my door here and I just rode until I hit 10,000 meters and 400 kilometers, and I had no plan. I just went here and there, and it was a really wonderful adventure, and I just kind of rode where my heart took me.
Was it like the real Forrest Gump, who said after running, walking, he said, now I don't feel like doing it, so he stopped?
Yeah.
So was that talk
also
like
at the end of 36 hours, I pretty much said that.
Okay, thanks for all these discussions. So coming back to Thijs, right? So we know the tagline of Everesting. It is so simple, but it is so difficult, right?
Yes.
So how did you call it that? So I want to understand from you, because you are the record keeper, right, of all the activities happening around the world. So
Okay, let me break in there just a little bit, because the actual gatekeeper, if you will, from the Hall of Fame, so everyone that gets in, that gets adjudicated, is by the man that's sitting here with us. So it is Andy. Every record that's coming across has been going through his hands and leaving these amazing messages on Strava.
Those messages are amazing. Thanks for all this messages. So I want to come to that discussion that how many types of Everesting and how many different sports are doing Everesting currently. So I think you can choose who wants to answer this, Thijs or Andy. But we want to, Thijs it is. So let's hear from you.
Awesome. No, perfect. And let me first say that, of course, I've heard Andy talk about the history of Everesting and what he's done and what Hell's 500 is like. But every time that I still hear this story, it's just as inspiring as it was the first time I heard it. One of the reasons I also joined this Everesting quest and found out about how I could help out. And thankfully and partially for the digital stage, that's where I indeed come in. And a little bit of background of the Hall of Fame itself. Because like Andy said, there was just a small group of people that was doing the Hell's 500, and eventually they wanted to go over the world of people doing these Everestings, and he wanted to commemorate them in one way or another. So they created the first initial Hall of Fame, and the originals from Everesting will still know what it looked like. And it was an amazing place, It was exactly what it should be. It was a name, some information about your ride, and that you actually achieved it.
As a fundamental little side note, I don't know if anyone listening in is familiar with the Wayback Machine, but you just Google it and it allows you to kind of look at websites back in the day. So you can use the Wayback Machine to see some of the original iterations of the Hall of Fame, and they're embarrassing to look at for me now, but worth having a look at to see how far it's come.
Exactly, Andy. You say that now, but when it just came out, everyone was loving it. So people made screenshots of it and put it on their Instagram, their Facebook, their Twitter, whatever. So it really did what it had to do. The only thing is, back then when it was designed, they thought, you know what, maybe we'll have 2,000 people in this community, and it's probably not going to grow. That was what your thought was, right, Andy?
I thought I would never hit 2,000. I picked a number that was like, there were not 2,000 people in the world that could do this.
Exactly. And when I first met the Everesting part, and maybe I can share that story as well, but let me stick with the Hall of Fame for now. So when I joined this Everesting part, there were about 5, 6, maybe 7,000 people already in the Hall of Fame. And that was in that old version that was suited for about 2,000 people, and there were already just 8,000 or 7,000 records in there. So it wasn't working well anymore. So it did its job because it could commemorate people, but it didn't work anymore. It was too slow. Adjudication process was taking minutes instead of just a few seconds. And when I joined the Everesting and finished my first, I saw the Hall of Fame, and I was like, okay, there's room for improvement. But when I found out that the man himself is actually doing all these adjudications by hand for every one of those, and I'm like, there has to be a better way of how to do this and how to approach it. So I can still remember that I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to make some notes, wrote them down. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to send Andy an email. So I put a little bit of a teaser in there and that I want to discuss it with him. And I don't know the exact date anymore, but I do know that I sent that email out on a Thursday, and on a Friday, the next day, he replied to my question to do a virtual cup of coffee, because just flying over to Australia was a bit too much for that. And on Monday, I can remember we had this call, and from there we started planning. And the idea that we had was it needs to be able to grow. So we have some amazing ideas in the pipeline to actually expand what Everesting is and to expand the community as well. But that also means we need to have a Hall of Fame that is not for 2,000 people or 20,000 people, but goes into the hundreds of thousands or maybe even in the millions. And that's what we're aiming for right now. And it needed to be overhauled, and that's what's been done recently. So you've all seen the new logo. You saw that pass by as well. So it's an amazing stuff that's been done. Not by me, but that's a different company, the great designer company that actually took care of that. And we made sure that the Hall of Fame is a new place for people to do their submissions of Everesting and to look up what they've done and what they've achieved and the plans that we have for the future. Yeah, we got a lot of them.
How many sports are there? Cycling, running, walking, or how many of them does Everesting till now?
It's pretty much any kind of sport that we've seen so far, because we've seen some crazy things. But the main categories that we have at this moment is indeed the ride that you can do. You can do a run, and there are two types of run in our Hall of Fame. You have a run supported, and you have a run non-supported. And the difference between these two is that when you do a run supported, that means that they run up, but they take a gondola or something else to go down. That could be a bike, that could be a car, that can be anything you can think of to actually go down again. But they run up. Then it means it is a supported run. The non-supported runs are for the really crazy people that actually run up but also run down. So that's a different category. We thought is definitely, we need to make sure that we put him in a different box, if you will, because that's it's crazy on a whole other level. Then we have, of course, the stairs, and stairs could be in an office building. We've seen those actually, just in an office building, people running up and down these flights of stairs, and of course outside and in various ways. So you have these long, never-ending stair climbs, for instance, in various countries. But also we've seen someone doing that in an outside he did a stair Everesting outside, just on the side of a building, which was just one flight going up and directly going back down again. It's amazing what people do. So that means that was thousands of repetitions that someone had to do to actually complete it. So it's crazy to see what people have done so far. But to me, it's also the way they've done Everesting, because we've seen Everestings on a tandem, we've seen it on a unicycle. Right now, someone is actually training to do an Everesting with a wheelbarrow. So it's still running, but you actually have a wheelbarrow that you push across. Any kind of mode of transportation which isn't powered, that people have been using, you could think of, we've pretty much seen them pass by. Also, the one Andy just recently reminded me of again was someone actually doing an actual climb on a piece of mountain, but just climbing up and down till he actually reached the height of Mount Everest as well. So then it's literally a mountaineering Everesting, because he's climbing, but it's not on Everest itself.
Yeah, there's a Red Bull athlete who he's done lots of crazy things. Like he circumnavigated the United Kingdom by swimming around it, because of course you do, and he swum the English Channel, as you do, but he was towing this gigantic log, because of course. But yeah, he did it on a rope. But I think the other one, the kind of the emerging one. So obviously cycling, whether it's outdoor or virtual, and running are kind of the two predominant Everestings. And like Thijs said, there's a whole bunch of like quite strange and unusual and interesting ones. But the one that's kind of emerging at the moment also is called Skimo Everesting. So putting on skins on a set of skis and skiing uphill and then back down. There's quite a few of those actually. It's actually quite a popular thing in Europe at the moment.
But I think, I hope it catches the attention of our Indian ski people, right? So there are lovely places in India which has lovely
of course
ski classes, and they organize in winters. So if I get someone, I will put this idea there. So there is an option that you can do. Yeah. Why not? Okay. And thanks for explaining this in depth. I think the audience will love it. But there is a quick question, I think, in the Q&A section. It asks that, can we club cycling and running and do like a triathlon, duathlon Everesting? Is that possible as a concept?
Yeah, there's been a few of these now, and I think it was kind of inspired by Ironman. Obviously, swimming uphill is something that is yet to be invented yet, but they're kind of like a duathlon. So I know there was a guy out of Hong Kong who sort of pioneered this, and there's been a few since, but I think he still did a swim, an Ironman length swim, but then he did a cycling Everesting and then a run Everesting as well. Incredible. But I guess like, I think the great thing about Everesting is we supply a framework, and obviously there's a framework that's required, a sort of set of guidelines that are required to get into the Hall of Fame. But I love the idea that it inspires all sorts of like interesting and different variations of the concept. That's where it gets really interesting, when the community can take an idea and just get creative with it.
Exactly.
Yeah, there are too many variations possible, right? Too many sports in the world to do too many variations of this concept.
That's it.
Yes, and that's also a question that's popped by in the Facebook community as well, where people were asking, what if I wanted to do, for instance, a double Everesting, like Andy just mentioned, and they changed the sport type halfway through. So originally you would do it on the same hill, But then again, if you were to do a double and you go for the double on a different hill or in a different variant, yeah, just
That
do
will
it.
be
And
interesting.
yeah,
The other kind of popular one is where people will ride like on a paved road up to as far as they can, but then they swap bikes and change over to a mountain bike and then do a mountain bike ride to the top and then change bikes. So they have a bike switch halfway up.
yeah,
Okay.
it can be done as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. One quick question. I think it is not in the lives format, but I really want to ask this to Andy, that you were always a cyclist, or I think you said in the live that you were a trail runner. How did it all change suddenly to cycling? Because
Yeah, it's
it
interesting.
is
So
like
like,
a trail runner, right?
yeah, I was a trail runner, and I was doing, I don't know. There's this event called Oxfam 100 kilometers. So I did 7 of those in a row. So you have to complete 100 kilometers. You can walk or run. I wasn't running the whole thing, to be clear. I'd run as much as I could in a combination of running and walking. But I think the inspiration there was always to better yourself and better your own personal best time. And I've always been interested in this concept of pushing the boundaries of what's possible. Not so much in the sport. I mean, that happens a bit in Everesting as well, but just pushing the boundaries of what's possible for yourself. But yeah, I was a trail runner. It was actually, funnily enough, it was one day when because I used to love running in the hills as well. And it was actually one day when I was running in the hills. There's a popular climb in the Dandenongs, which is just 30 kilometers to the east of me here. And it was a Sunday morning, just at sunrise, and I kind of got to the top of this climb in winter. It was misty, and the sun rays were kind of coming through the trees. You know what it's like. You just have one of those moments where it's like, wow, this is just so beautiful. And at the top of the trail that I got to, it meets a road, and a rider, I can still remember it vividly. He was wearing an orange Euskaltel Euskadi, the Spanish cycling team. He was wearing one of those team kits, and he came around on his Orbea and just rode so effortlessly up the road. And as he kind of got to the corner, he just got out of the saddle and just rode beautifully off into kind of this misty haze with all the sunlight coming through. And it was just like, wow, it was almost like this divine suggestion that, okay, here we are. We're both on a Sunday morning. We're both in the same place. I assume we're both there for the same reason. And that's this connection with nature and exercise and everything. But of the two of us, he looked to be doing it a lot more effortlessly than I was. And I just thought, wow, that really inspired me. And I thought, okay, from that moment, I just had this divine inspiration, like, I am going to be a cyclist, but not only that, I'm going to be a cyclist in the hills, because that just looks amazing.
So that's why you're a hill cyclist.
Yeah.
You're not.
Yeah. And
road cyclist.
fun fact, Thijs will probably correct me on this if I'm wrong, but I believe my Dutch surname somewhat translates to from the hills. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
from mountains.
Built into my blood.
Good.
That's correct.
Okay. One thing I think, Thijs, I don't know, in the Everesting discussion group, we see a lot of people crazy over the Hall of Fame and who has done the minimum time. But this trend I'm saying, I don't know whether you are, this has been purposely put to be a trend, or it just happened to be a trend that people have now gone crazy over times and they want to compete each other down. Was this purposefully or came less like that?
It's been a request from the community for quite a while to be able to review what certain times were, because an Everesting, like Andy just explained, is about, at least the methodology about an Everesting is about completing it and finding your limits and see how you can move past them. And for the majority of the people in our Hall of Fame and in our community, it's all about that self-exploration during such an Everesting, and not as much as a race. But in any kind of discipline, and also in Everesting, you got people that, of course, are after that faster time, that want to do it. Like still our record holder, Ronan, that still has the record for an outside in real life Everesting, a single Everesting for 6 hours and 40 minutes. I thought he still has and holds. So that's ridiculously fast. But you will still have these people in there, and whether it's for a roam or if it's for a single or a double or a triple, it's just like you just said yourself, that you're chasing certain challenges and you want to improve yourself on that, and that's what people wanted to do as well. So therefore, apart from the Hall of Fame, we created a leaderboard, or at least a first look of a leaderboard, because we also, for that one, we got tons of ideas to improve on that part as well.
Right.
But just for athletes to look at that and see, okay, I want to do maybe a quarter, or I want to do a base camp. And the quarter Everesting, just recently someone in our community posted that he beat the quarter time, and that's just amazing. And that was someone that said, well, I don't even feel that fit, but I have the fastest time for a quarter Everesting, which is probably going to spin out of control and people are going to be able to take it. But it creates a fun element in the Everesting community that we have for the ones that want it. So that's why we believe it was important to create a leaderboard, but still have our Hall of Fame. And the Hall of Fame is purely to commemorate everyone, and the leaderboard is for the ones that want to check certain times and want to improve.
And that the Hall of Fame is also filterable the way Thijs set it up. So it's not like sometimes time is the thing that's important, but for our community, people want to know who's the oldest or who's the youngest, or how am I the first to do it in this particular place? And if they're not the first in that country, then am I the first in this region? Or who's done the most distance or the shortest distance or the most amount of repetitions, or there's so many different ways to slice and dice it. And again, very intentionally, it was created with a framework that will allow that creativity, but really the community is the one that dictates whether it's time or distance or elevation or all sorts of different things that are, we can be inspired by Ronan McLaughlin doing an Everesting in 6 hours and 42 minutes. And we can be inspired by an athlete in Spain who has done seven or eight, I can't remember now, in a row. It's or Jack Thompson doing an Everesting every week for a whole year. Such different approaches. And Jack's is not about time. That said, he's very fast, but it really can be sliced and diced in so many different ways, and that's the thing that's kind of inspiring about it.
Exactly.
I think go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, but that's indeed the inspiring part of what the Everesting is, and it allows for such a wide audience to approach it. Because if you want to do an Ironman, you need to be in top shape. You need to be hella fit to get on the start line even. And you are with nothing but competitive players. Of course, there you have people as well that just want to finish, but most of them are pretty competitive in that regard. And what we want to create is something that even the ones that doing that quarter Everesting, that want to go for the 2212 vertical meters, and they will also need to train for that and have that achievement for them, and they can do that individually wherever they are. And that's the kind of audience that we also want to address and want to have within our community. And from there, hopefully, we can inspire them to then build up to even more crazier things like the Rome Andy just talked about.
Yeah, we are talking, so coming back to us, psychology in India, we are talking to our cyclists and our enthusiasts, and the leaderboard has really got us talking and going. So expect us breaking some of them I think in next 6 months. So we will prepare. We are already started preparing, and just for the audience, we wanted to also announce in presence of Andy and Thijs, we have conceptualized, we have finalized, got all the approvals from Everesting that yes, we are going for a race. This will be an Everesting, but we want to take you to a race mode, and this we will do in the foothills of the Himalayas. you know, we are from the eastern part of India. Eastern part of India, this is Darjeeling district, which holds the second highest railway station in Asia, Darjeeling. So there, with the foothills of there, we will do Everesting race. All the details we will circulate in the coming days with all the website, all the details, registrations. But let's race Everest. In India, so good for Thais and NDU. In India, Everesting is like a picnic. So I did Everesting. I see people came with their families, kids, their dogs. They're all there. They're coming. One reputation. Foods are of there's too so much food that the people say I don't want food now. I just want to go down and come up. Don't give me so much. It's like a party. 3 days party going on. It's DJ. It's like a music. So we are doing it like this, and we have done so many athletes from India have done, and our super athletes who have done internationally very well. Many of them, Kabir and Srinivas, everyone has done Everesting, and they have set the benchmarks in India. All the records are held by some of them. Very few of them held all the records. But we want to challenge as amateur athletes, but by creating a race which will be an Everesting race to the Everest. We are telling as race to Everesting. So let's do it, guys. So, and we have all the support from Andy and Thijs. And if you have interesting concepts, I take your permission, Andy and Thijs. But please give it to Andy and Thijs. I know Everesting is just a concept.
Absolutely.
You can add in so many things, and this was such a great conversation we are having. I think we'll keep it recorded. We'll have it for the international audience also. We'll post it to the Everesting group also, so that people knows this conversation is about. Any questions? I put it to Arnab. Any questions you have in the chat, in the Q&A section, which you want before we close down?
Yeah, few of the guys are asking about the preparation part of the Everesting. So though it's a generic question, but Andy and Thai, if you can put some points on there, they want to know how they will start for their preparation on nutrition and on strength training for, let's say, water Everesting, and then they gradually increase that. So what will be your suggestion?
Sorry, for me it was a bit rough to hear correctly what you just asked. The last bit was faded a bit.
I think preparation.
Yeah, few.
Arnab, let me. I think he's asking about preparation part and what kind of strength training or something which is required. They want to hear from you because you made it the concept. You have to tell us how to prepare for it now.
Preparation is definitely important for an Everesting, particularly if you're going to be taking part in this future event, the race. Obviously, you definitely need to prepare for that. But for a general Everesting, the great thing is, as mentioned, there's different heights on the way there as well. So I definitely recommend doing a quarter Everesting first, a half Everesting or a base camp, and then taking on a full Everesting. The great thing about using those stepping stones is you get a feel for what it's going to be like, and then it's kind of easy to extrapolate to go, okay, well, I need to do double that amount or triple or whatever it might be. I think in terms of your training, you really want to have a strong base level of fitness. And then from that, obviously riding lots of hills is it was Eddie Merckx, right, who famously quipped the best way to prepare is just to ride lots. So lots of riding in the hills makes a lot of sense, or any sort of elevation. I always liked to use a little bit of a triathlete. Triathletes do brick training, which is, they intentionally deplete their energy and then go out and try and do a run or a ride to simulate what it's like in the race. And I always liked doing that when preparing for Everestings as well. I would go out and do a hard day on the bike, but then the next day try and back that up and do another day in the hills, because then I know what it's like to be riding on, sore legs. You actually want to kind of simulate that, because the reality is you're going to be sore and tired. But I think that's in terms of the preparation. But if I can just give 2 or 3 pieces of advice for the day itself. So if I used a runner mentality, runners have this, it's probably come from other sports as well, but they call it chunking down or breaking down the concept. And the idea is, if you look at the height of Mount Everest, 8848, and go into an Everesting thinking that's what I've got to achieve, it just seems so insurmountable, especially when you've only done 10 kilometers, 100 kilometers, 10 meters, 100 meters, 1,000 meters. 8848 seems so far away. So I like the idea of always breaking it down. So you're thinking you're just trying to finish that rep, or you're trying to get to the next 1,000 meters, or you're trying to tick off another sort of bar. And it's called chunking it down. And it means you've got all these bite-sized little steps that you take the whole way. And that'll really help you psychologically. And then I think the other piece of advice that I've got is, obviously there's some amazing cycling nutrition and hydration that's out there. There's all sorts of products. I've got products sitting on my desk here, but really, like, when it comes down to it, for an Everesting, it's partly an eating competition as well. You need to consume so many calories. You're going to be in calorie deficit regardless. And I personally love the idea of just eating lots of real food. And I can imagine like an Everesting India would be incredible. I was lucky enough to do an Everesting in Sri Lanka a couple of years ago, and the food was better than any cycling event I've ever been on. You're going to have so much amazing real food. My mouth's watering thinking about some of the delights that you'd have on especially in the foothills of the Himalaya, Eastern India. Like, there's going to be some incredible treats. So yeah, don't be too caught up in like the specific scientific nutrition. Just eat what comforts you and makes you feel good, and something that you can look forward to as a bit of a reward as well.
Exactly. And just to pile on top of that, another piece of advice, and especially something that came through also in our Facebook community by other athletes, if you are busy with nutrition, don't take something on the Everesting day itself that you don't know how it reacts on your body. There are so many people that have been influenced by others, and they've taken certain types of food or drinks on the day itself that they haven't drank before on a training day. So make sure that whatever you have available is something that you're familiar with. So like Andy said, it comforts you. Make sure you're familiar with it as well. Don't go and try something new that's laying there, even though it looks good, because it can have such an adverse effect. And the crazy thing is, also like Andy said, take something that works for you. And if I look at the community, and I've seen people sharing pictures of their Everesting, it goes from people eating handful of nuts to full-blown pizzas to bacon strips to just sticking with a full vegan diet. They can all make it work. So to me, there's no such thing as just this very specific food that is on top of everything, and if you take that, you will have your Everesting. If it works for you, it works for you, and stick with that, and don't be influenced by others. Make sure that you have it available. And the other thing is, make sure you have equal amounts of sweets, but also on savory things, because you'll be drinking sports drink for such a long period of time, and eventually the sweet is gonna be so annoying, and you'll be dying to be eating a salted chip or some salted almonds or whatever. They're gonna be so heavenly good. And I've been there on my Everestings that eventually where I just pop open a bag of crisps and I take that first one out, and it's that salty, savory taste that you have on it. It's so good. So make sure that you have a variety of foods available, and also a variety of drinks, because apart from your sports drink, you'll want something else eventually to mix up with that taste. And that could be a cup of tea, that could be a coffee, or maybe just a Coke every now and again, or just a glass of water. Just make sure that you have it available.
And just to let you know, in our internal WhatsApp chats, people are telling this is so helpful. So thanks for sharing this. And one request which has already started coming after our just announcement of the race, that is Andy and Thijs racing in Himalayas in India.
How good would that be? What's the date that you've got there? 4th to the 6th of October. That sounds incredible.
That does sound really awesome, though.
And even the next week will be for this festival or the popular festival Durga Puja, so you can get a compact experience.
Amazing.
So
That'll be so good.
So we invite you both. Please come, and we'll try to beat you in your timings. We are in leaderboard mode. We are not in Hall of Fame mode. Leaderboard mode.
I love that.
I will bring the biryanis for both of them.
Yes.
It sounds really good.
I will ask them to try that before the Everesting.
Any more questions, Arnav? We have any more questions? I think we are done with the time else.
But we have already covered those in our discussion, so I'm not going to ask those. And we will definitely redirect people to the community or Facebook community of the Everesting, and if not, then also we can mail them.
Perfect.
Sounds good.
Right. Any last message you have, Andy and Thijs, for the community, ultra cycling community of India, which you want to
Yeah,
give?
I just want to say, like, obviously, you know, going back so many years, we've got a long relationship with Indians who have completed Everestings, both running and cycling, and just keep that inspiration coming through. If you've ever got questions, obviously hit us up through the various channels. Yeah, like, obviously, I'd love to hear about you taking on this particular event, and you know, if I can give some words of encouragement at any stage, just let me know. I'd love to do that. I just can't wait to hear how it all goes, and love the idea of kind of pushing the boundaries of what's possible. That always makes me excited.
Exactly. Well, same here. Exact same thing. It's been amazing that you guys wanted to listen to our stories, and if we could give any advice, then we're definitely happy to share. Hope it helps. And yeah, just one last thing to just keep in mind with any kind of training that you do, with how good you prepared. If you're gonna do the Everesting, and especially if you go for the full stuff, for the big one, it's gonna get rough. So know that eventually you'll hit that. Maybe it's 6,000 meters of elevation. It could be 5,000 or maybe 7,000 meters of elevation. That's where the real journey starts, and that's mental. So apart from being prepped really good, trained really good, make sure you have the right people around you. But if I just heard that you guys actually create a very big party around this whole event, then I think that should be good, because surround yourself with good people. Especially the people on the sidelines, we call them the Sherpas, because as they are the most important part of actual mountaineering up Mount Everest itself, these are the people that get you across the line, because eventually you'll feel that your body is going to stop, your legs don't want to move anymore, and then your mind becomes tricky and your mind is telling you to step off. It's the people on the sideline that you know where you do it for, and they keep cheering you on. Those also are the real heroes.
True.
So keep going.
I see Arnav has taken notes already.
Yeah.
They are called Sherpas. So Arnav is going to implement that now. So it's been an incredible, I think, the last 40-45 minutes, and thanks for accepting invitation for live chat across 3 continents. We'll love it. I think we will love to have more of that in the future, but let's see, we will have those race, and if people will have some questions, and maybe we can club all the questions, email you, or get you to some live conversations if possible. Thank you so much, and we'll be in touch. Arnab, anything from your side?
Just now not, but we will definitely post the recorded things on the Instagram, and the later stage we will upload this video in YouTube for the audience who had missed this today.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you so much. Bye bye, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye bye.